Are you a leader or a follower? Many people, when asked that question, say, look, I'm not a born leader. There are people who have leadership qualities, have the charisma, have the courage, have the wisdom. I need to be told what to do, or at least directed and guided what to do. Is that really true, however? Because we understand we all need mentorship, we need training, we need education, we have teachers, and so on. But why does that mean that everyone has to become a conformist? Remember, a conformist is not just following someone that's guiding you. It means that you're not living up to your own individuality. So when we say a leader or a follower, we're not necessarily talking about a world leader of millions of people. We're talking about the confidence and the security and that inner validation that you feel that you have something to contribute. In different words, are you a taker or a giver? And that's what we need to address. Because in our society, so many of us have become, by default, or by intimidation, or just by cultural, familial, and educational pressure, to become part of the herd mentality, to conform, to follow. When indeed you do have an individual spirit within you that gives you the capacity to give something that no one else but you can give. So please join me in this discussion, which can be transformative in helping you discover the leader within you. Hi, this is Simon Jacobson, and we'll be speaking about, are you a leader or a follower? This program is dedicated by Yecheskel Goodfriend in memory of David ben Yecheskel Halevi. When people are asked the question, are you a leader or a follower? Very often the answer is, I'm not a person who has leadership qualities. I need to be guided, I need to be directed, I need to be told what to do. But is that an excuse to become a conformist? We understand not everybody has the same leadership qualities that we'll call born leaders may have, or made leaders due to pressures. We know many leaders have done tremendous things in history simply because they were in a situation, thrust into a situation to be that time and that place where they were called upon, or it fell upon them. There are many examples of that. But did that give us an excuse to say why we don't have our own individuality being expressed? And that takes us into the psychological dilemma of how many of us, due to our upbringing, and I'll start from our homes, never allowed our voice to be spoken, or we were silenced. A dominant parent, a critical or but usually an insecure parent who wanted to exercise control and power, and the only way was to silence any resistance, to not allow anyone to have an independent voice. Your parents know what's best for you. And parents, even though they naturally love their children, can also hurt their children in that process. Same thing in education. Obviously, we always need to be team players, get along, and so on. But often, that discipline can spill over to control, to repression, and suppression of a person's unique talents, skills, individuality. People are threatened often by that. You see it in history. Governments, leaders were threatened by others. So anyone that had an individual voice, 1984, George Orwell captures it so well. Mind control. Because individuality is a threat to those in power. So there are extreme versions of it, and there are subtle versions of it. Even though today we live in a freer world, but you have plenty of that. Peer pressure, social pressure, education, the media, propaganda, marketing, going back all the way to our earliest formative and impressionable years as children. So it's not a surprise that many of us don't have the strength and don't have the confidence to be ourselves. So how do you know whether you're a leader or a follower? And when I say leader, I don't mean necessarily a leader that means a leader of the free world or of entire countries or a world leader. A leader means that inner confidence that you have something to give, something to contribute. Yes, of course, we all need education and training and mentorship and guidance and direction. And we learn from those that came before us, the veterans, the experienced ones. But at the same time, if that's at the expense of crushing and suffocating your inner voice, your unique voice, something tremendously wrong with that equation. And in fact, the fact is that each one is a leader. Each one of us is a leader in our own way. And to understand that, you need to understand your own soul. To understand that you have a unique, indispensable soul. And that no two souls are alike. If you're here on this earth, it means you have something to contribute and accomplish that no one but you can accomplish. That doesn't mean there's no overlap and we don't need to complement each other and we don't need to support each other and we need the synergy of many. But it's exactly like an orchestra. Every player, every musician has their instrument and need to play it when they have to play it. And if they don't, the rest of the orchestra, the symphony, will be compromised. Every musical note is necessary. As Mozart famously said, purportedly said, to the Archduke of Austria, who thought he was a music connoisseur, a connoisseur of music, and he said to Mozart, "Beautiful music, but far too many notes." And Mozart replied, "Yes, Your Majesty, but not one more than necessary." There are 35 to 75 trillion cells in our body, in the human organism, but not one more than necessary. And it is a balance between the individual and the collective. In the words of Hillel, the great sage, who said, "If I'm not for myself, who will be for me?" The individuality, the leader within you. And if I'm only for myself, what am I? That's the collective. And they complement each other. We see that in the human organism. Look how many different, I just mentioned so many cells, how many different systems and organs and limbs and all the details. And yet they all work together in a healthy person, a healthy organism, in a symbiotic way. Look at nature. How many species are there out there? And in each species, how many individual creatures? Whether it's in the mineral world or the vegetation or animal or human. And yet, unless someone disturbs the balance, look at the amazing design, systematic design of nature and how it complements each other. However, humans introduce another element: power, control, ego, insecurity, threatened by someone else. That's why, deliberately or inadvertently, we are trained, fit in, follow the line, follow the herd. Don't make trouble, don't disrupt. And you'll be punished. I don't mean necessarily always in an overt way, sometimes that as well, but in a subtle way. So we all talk about thinking out of the box and being an individual. Those are nice lines. But there's a certain amount, a line that people know, an invisible line, a silent line, that we often are taught don't cross. Now, when I'm saying being an individual, I don't see saying necessarily to be someone that is offensive and hurting others. But sometimes there is a risk to be taken when you're going to be that leader, because you're going to take a position that others may not take. That's what makes you a leader and not a follower. But you see here, leadership means in quality more than quantity. It's not how many people listen to you or are under your control, so to speak. We'll talk about that in a moment some more. But it's about your qualitative feeling of confidence, self-confidence, self-esteem, to know that you have something to contribute that no one but you can. contribute. Now, true leaders, though this is not the theme of this discussion, I've spoken about it other times, I have a whole chapter on it in Torah Meaning for Life. True leaders actually create leaders, because true leadership is not about power and control. True leadership is about giving, is about empowerment. And a true leader is secure, and secure enough to teach others to be leaders, is not threatened by someone else. You don't have to be wrong for me to be right. That comes from insecurity. That comes from a person who does not feel confident that given freedom, people would agree with them. So the only way is to control them. Again, subtly or overtly. Because that's the nature of a human being. Freedom is not just a gift. It's innate to the person. Because we were created in the divine image, and the divine is free. It's not bound, even by the laws of nature. We're bound by laws. We have certain parameters and certain structures that we need to follow. Simply, that's how we're created. But the spirit of a human being is a transcendent spirit compared to a flame that's always rising, always reaching upward, transcendent. And that's our birthright. That's due to the fact that we have a divine element within us. So it's not a surprise that the founding fathers wrote, all men are created equal. I would say all people are created equal. And by virtue of the Creator, are endowed by the Creator with inalienable rights, freedom. A spirit is free. And as soon as it's enslaved, something's wrong. And enslaved can be actual slavery. Unfortunately, as we've seen in history, it could be psychological slavery, emotional, control, in many different ways. So really, understanding your soul is unleashing the leader within you. That's really what it comes down to. Unleashing a tremendous force that may be trapped, and you may not even be aware of it. Often it will speak up, especially when things aren't going well. There's something you feel a nagging, something is not fulfilled. It can speak up at any age of a person's life. When you suddenly feel an emptiness. Why am I here? What am I doing with my life? What am I accomplishing? We distract ourselves by making money, by building things, and sometimes good things, great things, building a family, all beautiful. But how much more is there inside of you that the world is waiting for? How much more power? And that's the leader within you. So imagine you were able to spread your wings and express yourself. And I often quote Oliver Wendell Holmes, that tragic poem, The Voiceless. Alas to those that die with their song still inside them. Some people connected to Thoreau's line that most men lead lives of quiet desperation and die with their song still inside them. But it's two different quotes. They connect with each other. You have a song inside you, many songs inside you, waiting to be sung. So then how do you do that? How do you live a life? How do you move on? How do you grow from a life of conformity or following, being a follower, to becoming a leader? So it comes down to, number one, getting to know yourself, getting to know your soul. And that's by studying. What is your soul like? What is it made up of? What is it comprised of? What's the DNA, the building blocks of your soul? It's made up of components, cognitive faculties, emotional ones, behavioral ones, superconscious ones. So that's simply dedicating time to study about your soul. A good place to begin? My first chapter in Torah Meaning for Life, Body and Soul. But there are many books. Look it up. Study. Designate every day a few minutes to read about your soul. Number two, we'll call that cognitive conditioning. The study in spa, in the spiritual spa that I often talk about. Study, prayer, action. Study cognitive, learning about your soul. Two, prayer is service of the heart. Emotionally connecting to your soul. Every morning, begin with that one line meditation or prayer. It's called Moda Ani. Thank you for returning my soul to me. But in an emotional way, a personal way. Thank you for making me unique. Thank you for renewing my contract. for giving me an indispensable mission to fulfill in this world. Connect, bond with your own in uniqueness. So before you go to work, before you do anything, begin with that focus. And that becomes the hub, like the mission statement, the spiritual mission statement, which should direct and guide and inform the rest of what you do. And number 3, behavioral. SPA, prayer, action. Behavioral conditioning. Act like a leader. How do you do that? Initiate. Be proactive. Initiate a kind word, a kind deed to someone you meet, a friend, a stranger. Send out an email, a text, a social media message of inspiration to someone who may need it or to anyone. Create your own list. Initiate. That's what leaders do. They don't wait. They don't react, they proact. Proactive instead of reactive. In action. So there you have that. If you can feed and nourish your cognitive, your emotional, and your behavioral with that context and that spirit of leadership, that's how you move from follower to leader. So it takes effort. You have to develop new habits. But it's not as difficult as it may seem, because we're not talking here about suddenly going and running for office or becoming the head of a team or the head of a company. It may include that. I would actually say that if you build it internally within your own confidence, it will lead to many other opportunities, because people gravitate to leaders. They gravitate to people who have confidence. And an important element in all of this is to have friends and mentors, and I'm not talking about many, but a few, that support you, that give you that vote of confidence. Because there are plenty that will throw cold water, plenty of naysayers will give you all the reasons, don't think you could change, the more things change, the more they stay the same, the cynical and sarcastic view of life. Have people that push you out, that motivate you, that help move you along and say you can do it, and respond positively. So those are some ways to start becoming from a follower into a leader. And it's not just for your own self-actualization, it's also for the world around you. The symphony of the cosmic orchestra of all of us needs you, as you need us, each one of us. And together we create something that's more than the sum of the parts. The synergy that I mentioned, that draws down an energy that's more than just the individuals involved. Something that can only come from every individual doing exactly what they need to do, singing their song, and then joining together in unison, complementing each other in one beautiful harmony. Imagine a world like that. The wars, the battles, the discord, the divisiveness, the hatred that exists out there is all rooted in a lack of full appreciation of who you are. Why do you need to hate another? Love yourself. Why push down someone else? Lift yourself up higher. And in the process, lift up others. I know it sounds simple and naive, because we see history is littered. History is fraught with power, control, dominance, repression, suppression. But it all begins with you and I. That's the only thing you have control over. If you create in your own life a certain harmony, a certain acceptance, a certain tolerance, more than that, confidence. Confidence breeds confidence. It spills over, and it has the domino, ripple, and butterfly effect. First for the people in your sphere of influence, and then by extension. There are only 5 degrees of separation between all of us. That's how we change the world. You change yourself. You become a leader in your own right. Slowly, that impacts, and it's contagious. A positive viral impact on those around us. And today with technology, it's so easy and so quickly that we can replicate, that we can scale, and we can expand exponentially this message, this spirit. Be blessed. Have the confidence. Know that you have it in you to be that leader, to be that unique person, and we all need that. Thank you. This has been Simon Jacobson, meaningfullife.com. Please subscribe to our offerings, to our growing, robust YouTube channel at Simon Jacobson Meaningful Life Center. And love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your comments, and of course, sharing. Let's create that exponential butterfly effect. Be well and be blessed.
This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at meaningfullife.com/donate.